Hey, hi, a very good evening, everyone. And a few places, it's good morning. And welcome to the exciting Fire Talk session. And we have a diverse panel of coaches here who are ready to share their personal life experiences about the coaching, like about their first coaching experience being as a coachee and being as a client. And if I talk about the reason behind choosing this topic, we love to share the real life experiences, real life stories, because it brings the impact in the people around us. And when today we will share the real life experiences which we have got from the world of coaching and through coaching, it will help the listeners to like have a prompt reflection in their own lives and inspire them to consider how they can incorporate coaching into their own journey. And with all that, just let me firstly just introduce myself. My name is Himani Deswal. I'm from India and currently in UK. And I'm a leadership and transformational coach and founder of Yuni. And with that, if I talk about how I went for the coaching session, one of my colleague told about his life and the impact he has got from the coaching. And that made me to land into this world of coaching. And today we have joined all the different coaches from the different parts of the world with different time zones. And I really want to say so much, thank you. Like it's totally warm feeling for me, because people have joined almost at midnight, and it's like for somebody is like like Francisco, almost the morning, starting of the morning. Yes. And yes, so let me introduce today the panel of coaches. So firstly, let me introduce the Carolyn Hamilton-Kuby, who is an executive coach and specialist in leadership development and a workplace wellness from Canada. Francisco Reyes, he is an executive leadership and transformational coach from Singapore with over 30 years of corporate experience across various sectors. And our last guest is Elham Baghdadi, who is originally from Iran, and from last few years she is living in Spain and working there. She is an executive and leadership coach and an humanitarian worker. So, okay, before we begin today, like delving into the today's session, I would like our panel of coaches to introduce themselves to our listeners. So, if Francisco, if you can go ahead first, and then Caroline and Elham, please.
Well, thank you, Imani. Thank you. Well, nice meeting you, Elham, Caroline, and a nice introduction from your side, Imani, and nice to see new faces and be part of this. Is always interesting to hear from other coaches. So yeah, I'm in Francisco. I'm now based in Madrid, in Singapore, but I grew up in Madrid and spent a lot of years in Amsterdam. My professional background was pretty much started and ended in the whole world of supply chain management with more than 30 years in that area. So it's processes, system integrations, and as well as operations. So that's where I am. As a coach, 5 years ago, I started to have these kind of small coaches. And yeah, I'm going forward that. I'm looking forward to still for this journey. And I'm a transformational coach. That's what I would love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, uh, Caroline. Yeah.
Thank you, Hamani, and for inviting me to be part of this amazing panel. And it is lovely to join in and get to know you a bit as well, Francisco and Ellen, and everyone else who's joining in. So, my name is Carolyn Hamilton-Kuby, and I am in Kingston, Ontario, Canada, which is located on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people who have lived on, loved, and taken care of the lands for thousands of years. And I am a certified executive coach and a professional certified coach. And I entered the world of coaching 15 years ago. It's hard to believe. And my business has been up and running 22 years. So started out with some consulting and corporate training, and then expanded into coaching with a specialty in leadership development around 15 years ago, and also dovetailed into a specialty of professional coach development. So I'm also a mentor coach, a coach educator, and a coaching supervisor within my business offerings. Thank you.
Elham, yeah.
Hi everyone. Thank you very much for joining us as well. I'm also very happy to be part of this panel. I'm Elham Baghdadi and a certified executive and leadership coach with over 2 decades of leadership experience in a diverse global context. I've lived and worked in 7 different countries in 3 different continents. This is apart from the casual travels all around, I don't know, 50 other countries, but in these 7 countries, I actually worked and lived for more than 2 years. I'm very passionate about helping others, and that's why I dedicated my life to this career that helps the most deprived population of the society, which are refugees and displaced people. I'm also passionate in supporting others to find their full potentials. And that's why I'm dedicating in the recent years my time in coaching professionals to improve their leadership skills, as well as general career coaching and self-development coaching. I'm so happy to be part of this panel. Imani, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for introducing yourselves. Okay, so before we go first, our first question, like which I want our panel to ask. So you all are coaches and just want to know, have you ever been on the other side of the equation as a coachee? And if yes, please tell us what really prompted you very first foray into the world of coaching as a client. So if I ask, okay, maybe Carolyn, if you can tell first.
Thank you. And so, quite interestingly, my first exposure to being a client or coachee, if you will, was in my coach training program. And it's the Royal Roads University Graduate Certificate in Executive Coaching. So 15 years ago. And we'd been, introduced to the coaching model. We'd seen some demos by faculty. And then they, of course, put us in for some experiential learning and threw us right in and said, okay, coaches. And so I recall that the first time out, I coached someone. And then it was my turn about an hour later. And it was a transformational experience. And the coach, may I share the name of the coach? Is it
Yes, as per your comfort.
Her name's Holly Drager. We'd never met before. She's just learning the framework as I was. And we're students in the program. And first time out with coaching practice. And within the coaching, she looked at me and she said, Carolyn, what's it going to take for you to own your magnificence? Oh, I still get goosebumps when I think of that. And to this day, I have it on a post-it note and I still visit that every once in a while. It is such a powerful question. And it came from that coaching practice, from a student of coaching in the moment. And I remember thinking, this is even more powerful than I thought it would be. And not only is it a gift that I can give to others, it's a gift that I can benefit from myself.
Yeah. Carolyn, just one question, like which I would like to ask when you were sharing here. So you have been into the leadership development before that for so many years.
Yes.
How much like when you were with first time being as a coachee, what the shift you find into the world like from training to coaching at that moment?
What was the shift in from
Yes,
training? And okay. And
yes.
so great question, Himani. And so I recall when I came back after the program, considering what my business offerings were, which was consulting, corporate training. And the plan was still to keep corporate training, which is part of my passion too. However, I closed the doors to consulting. And and started offering executive coaching and coaching of teams, quite honestly. And the reason for that, and that was not to say, coaching good, consulting bad. It's not about that at all. There's a place for all. However, I just loved the approach of helping people finding the answer themselves. And if I can just share super quickly, the other thing that solidified that was an experience when I returned. So I had been in the midst of a corporate training contract, and it was 4-week contract. I zipped away for the week for the in residency, came back on the Sunday, and then in class on Monday. And one of the people came up to me and said, Carolyn, I'm so glad you're back. I was going to call you while you were away. I needed my coach, and I was called to coach, but I really was consulting. I found that out when I was in the coach training program. And so, can you see me? Can you see me? And I said, I have time after class. We can do a laser coaching. Sure. So after class, I met with him and I said to him, I have a new approach actually, and it's peer coaching. Well, I realized what I was doing before was consulting and giving some advice. Are you comfortable with that, or would you rather the new framework, or would you prefer the consulting? He said, whatever, just help me. So I used the framework fresh out of school, and I wasn't sure, but I did it, and bing bong boom, he got clear on what he wanted to be coached on. He got clear on some new insight and clear on a forward movement. And within 20 minutes, he said, thank you. He was smiling. He was walking out the door. And then just a couple of minutes later, I turned around and I heard, Carolyn, and I turned around and he said, do you know what you did to me? I thought, oh no, what did I do? I'm new to this. And he said, you empowered me. He said, before I'd walk away feeling inspired by your advice and your suggestions, and I feel empowered. Thank you. And for me, that was the pivotal moment of shifting in my business to coaching from consulting.
Thank you. Just one small thing, Karen. How you felt right now? Just take a small journey back in your life. Like how you felt that journey going back right now?
It was empowering for me, quite honestly, and a shift in, there's a place to inspire people, and that's beautiful. I find it even more meaningful to help facilitate empowerment. To me, that's even more transformational.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Ilham, you can share about your, first foray into the world of coaching, as a client. Ilham, you are mute right now. Yeah.
I'm actually going to tell you my second experience because my first experience comes a little bit later. So it was when I was going for a work assignment to work with refugees in north of Uganda in a very remote place with very limited infrastructure and services. Very poor society to work with refugees who were coming from South Sudan. So it was a very small town close to the border with South Sudan. So before going there to prepare myself, I had my sessions with 2 sessions with a great coach. I have to say that unfortunately, Caroline, I don't remember his name. I wish I did. Because it was amazing. It was such a great experience with him. He helped me to plan actually my arrival to that very remote location, to prepare myself for a completely new environment, new language, new team, new climate even. And that was the first time I sat on the other side of the table and had such a, I would say, transformative in terms of a very big life event, as well as helping me in those sessions and the planning that I did for my travel to Uganda as a leader as well. So I had a great leadership I came into the discovery during the coaching sessions to very interesting leadership tips that I used them when I arrived.
That's nice. And just one question here, Alam, how it has helped you because you were moving towards a different place, totally new place, and you took the coaching. How it has helped you, to, I would say, emerge into that new area, new place totally.
It was such a different experience. It was not the first time that I was changing country, going for a work assignment to a different country. So it was the fourth time that I was moving to a new country. But these ones turned out completely different experience compared to the other ones that I went like jumping into the pool without being prepared this way. With the help of course, we prepare ourselves in different ways before we go for our assignments. But this one is in particular very unique because we got the coaching before going there.
Thank you. Okay, so Francisco, if please you can share your first coaching experience being as a client, yeah.
Oh, as I listen to that question of yours, this is what I recall when I was working back in Netherlands in the company I was working for. I was part of like an executive training, and there was a facilitator. And one of the things I observed him was he was a very good listener, a good active listener. He was facilitating the program for us for executives, and there were like about different nationalities, the different backgrounds, and so on. And we were about like 8 or 10 on that. But being a facilitator, you have to be on the ground. You see what's happening. Right? But there was a moment that he gave us a short introduction. What is I think it was coaching. I don't recall, no? But so I was the one who was the coachee, let's say, for a 15 or 20 minutes role play. And what I remember of that is about he captured a lot of things that it was being said in the course or the training. And there was a specific thing that I said, and he came back to that. He asked a question about that specific thing, and it called my attention. First, the question was quite interesting to hear, and second, that he was able to remind as much those details. And that was the first time I heard about the coaching, but it was just a role play. So fast forward, like 6 years ago, I was again in another executive training where we were being provided by the Gallup Strength Finder coach. There was different type of training for Gallup coaches, and I was able to obtain the certified coach as a Gallup in that end. But the facilitator was also again the one I called my attention. But this time we were talking aside and after one of the sessions, and he started asking questions about everything. And that's what I realized about the coach. He was again being there, but the thing is that his questions, as Carolyn was saying, there was a certain questions that caught your attention. For be as what I know now after 6 years of that is the reflective inquiry. I'm a person that I don't have much in reflection myself. I grew up in that way. I'm a person who was a doer. Let's just go, 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 go and see what happens. That's me, right? But being a coach helped me to help my clients as well, for them to be a disruptive thinker and to be reflective think process. That's what I got. And that's what the thing about the who caught my attention. About those questions that sometimes is out of the bloom but caught your attention. And I think Karen said that kind of goosebump there and makes you realize, makes you think. It's like your brain stops and wait, did I say that? That's what I got about the experience of these of my what I can recall. Those are the two moments that I think I got from those specific sessions of being a coachee and being coach.
Can I ask you, Francisco, one question here? Just a curiosity when you were saying something here. So when it was first time going into the reflective question, being as a coach has asked, what was your first as a thought process came to you? Just as a reflective question are coming to you.
Well, as I said, I'm usually a person you don't think much. I'm unfortunately I'm a very high risk taker. I do what I have to do. I'm a solution driven and pretty much a problem solver. So and I'm very active in that sense. I reflect afterwards, after the facts, always, right? But this is the thing about that. When I hear that kind of question, it's like it caught my attention. I have to stop thinking. And it evolves in there, no? And it takes me time to react, pretty much. My reaction is always up very fast. But in that time, it's like you hearing that, it's like you have to process in a very slow motion that kind of question reflectively, so that I'm able to digest and expand what does that mean really. And that's what I enjoy, I like. And I do that a lot as well with my clients at this moment. And it helps. Nice help, yeah.
Thank you so much sharing, because this is something coaching brings, and when the listeners will come to realize how the reflective things, questions, it helps also give a lot of maybe solutions, bring a lot of reflections in the life. I think it's really powerful. Thank you, Francisco. If I
Thank you.
ask, yeah, thank you. If I ask another second question is about when we try to do something in our life, sometimes we have apprehensions and sometimes we don't have it. So if I say, if you have any initial apprehensions about seeking coaching for yourself, so please share that. So if Elham, you can share first. Elham, you're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, this is when I would like to go to my first experience, actually. So the first experience when I didn't know actually what is coaching, what type of intervention it is, and what should I expect from coaching. So I went into the coaching session completely unprepared, and I was my mind was completely blocked. So the coach was asking me question, and I was not able to think. So I was like, I'm here to receive answers. So why is he asking me a lot of questions? And I was not able to think and get the point. And those were not very successful coaching sessions because I was not ready for it and I didn't know what to expect. So finished, then fast forward. Now I went to these sessions that I told you before going to Uganda. And this time I was ready for it because this time, because of that experience, afterwards I was looking into coaching a lot and I realized that, okay, so this is coaching, the type of intervention that it is, and this is what I need to expect. So I went to those sessions completely prepared, although I had that, let's say, not a very positive experience, not because of the coach, of course, because of me not knowing where I'm going for what type of intervention. Because of that experience, the second one went so well because at that time I went to the coaching session completely prepared and I knew that I need to do my part in order to get the best out of the coaching intervention. So the initial apprehension was because of that experience, but it turned out well because I prepared myself.
And Elham, how have you felt the first time when you were not getting the solutions?
Sorry?
How you felt at that time when you were not getting solutions from your coach during coaching
As
session?
I told you, I was
Yeah.
completely blocked. So in my mind, instead of paying attention to the question, reflect on myself and find the answer within myself. Try to discover things through those questions. I was just going like round and round in my head that why is he asking me that question? I'm here to ask him questions. I'm here for him to provide me with answers. Why is he asking me that question? And because of asking those why in my head, I was not able to reflect on myself. So that was it. So I expected an answer, and of course he was a professional coach. He was not going to provide me with any answer.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the feeling.
Yeah. Because why I asked you that question again is like because I remember during one of my session, it was the third session, and the coachee told me, "You're not giving me any solutions. What kind of a coaching session are you doing with me?" Even I set the expectation initially on the beginning, still that came during the third session. And I was like, then again, going through the expectations with her. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Francisco, if you would like to share your initial apprehensions, if any.
I had that experience, but not I would the sharing I'm going to be telling now is not more of for myself, but being an observer. So it was a training. The first time I was being part of the training, we were part of observer. We were off camera, and there was the professional coach, master coach at that time with a client. So there was a nice of questions and so on. So I was getting lost because if it was a training, I was not able to follow, right? But there was a moment, one of the questions he asked during the coaching session they were doing. And I don't know, but he asked about how is your heart beat at this moment? Man, there was a silent. And the coachee or the client but said, I don't know how you noticed that, but my heart is beating fast. And I was like, whoa, that was my idea. I mean, it's a virtual, right? There was a lot of people observing in off camera, but during that conversation, what I heard is about a lot of questions, a lot of inquiries, curious, which is very good. But that question called my attention. Called my attention because it's something that you don't how. I mean, in my first question, how did that person, the coach, was able to ask that question? Where did it coming from, and how did he realize? And that's part what I heard. Being present, being partnered with the client, building the trust, have that kind of connection. Everything was going in. It's just a very much like 20, 30 minutes, 20, 25 minutes of a conversation, right? So it was not really a proper, but during that session, but it was incredible. That's what I heard. And then therefore I started to know, hey, this is, I think that was something interesting. And I think Carolyn was said, the way you're able to connect, the way you're able to be with your client and empower them is something that's part of what I want to be still, to be that kind of coach. This is a long journey, by the way, you know that.
And I think we, as a coach, sometimes we have, wow moments during the coaching session. And being as a coach, you also sometimes, like from where it has happened, from where it came, those things. Yeah, nice.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, Carolyn, if you would like to share, please.
Again, I'm going back to I'm thinking back to when I was at Royal Roads University, and part of the offering was mentor coaching. It was part of the program. And my mentor coach at the time, Sarah Evans, actually is still my coach to this day. We've stayed in touch, and I've contracted her services as my coach through the years. And I remember at the time, it was a sad time. It was a happy time in terms of being in that program. However, in our family, my sister had just passed away 6 months before, my sister Angie. So I was dealing with grief. And I was even pondering if I should sign up for the program. And yet my sense was yes, to go ahead with it 6 months later. So I remember having a conversation with Sarah as my coach soon after finishing up the program and saying, I know coaching, I know this from the training. It's about stretching people. I'm stretched, Sarah. Like this is a challenging time in my life. I'm not up to stretches. I'm just saying. And I said, I'm going for grief counseling. And because I know coaching is not about counseling. So that said, I want my business to still thrive, and my focus and my energy are off. So if you can help me with that, that would be wonderful. And she said, I'm here for you. And she was. And what was really beautiful, my apprehension was, I was pondering, is it the time for coaching or not during that time? Should it maybe just be counseling for the grief and going through as a student and managing the focus and energy through counseling? And or could I access both modalities successfully, And I was able to. And going back to what Francisco just mentioned about that, the importance of at the being, cultivating that trust and safety at the being level. Sarah showcased that then and has showcased it since. And it just allowed me to show up, yes, as a woman who was grieving and reaching out for help around that. Also, to keep my business going and thriving. And she helped me with optimizing focus and energy and everything else in between, and met me where I was. That was really important. She still put out some stretches, and they were not crazy off the wall stretches. They were aligned with where I was and checking in with me to make sure when she would put out, a challenge or whatever.
Kellen, when you were talking about like coaching and counseling, so just one question came is like, of course, at a lot of places, people are aware between the difference between coaching and counseling. But at few places, sometimes if people going, of course, for leadership development, most of them they go for with the coaching. But if somebody is going through any challenge, grief, any problem, so sometimes they get confused. Should they go with coaching or should they go with the counseling?
Yes.
And I think still that juggling part is there at a lot of places. If you would like to say something here on that, yeah.
It's my experience that how can I say it? It goes back to establishing the agreement, I'll say, and connecting with that client out the gate to make it really clear what coaching is, what it isn't. And as well, if in a coaching session, a leader, a client of any sort, it seems to be that it's more of a counseling issue or consulting, if consulting is more what they're looking for. It's just a great time for a conversation to go back to the agreement, revisit it, what it is and isn't, and to see I always try to have referrals that I can, pass on for people to go to if it's another modality that might be more appropriate. Certainly, if there's anything that's trauma-based requiring healing, that's a clear indication of a referral. And the ICF have a great white paper on their website that makes it really clear when to refer a client. To me, for sure, it's being very clear about that line. Very clear about that line. And if I can just share this I think is really interesting to take away, that at one point I had a contract within an organization, and I think it was about year 5 of the contract. And the program coordinator called me and he said, "Carolyn, I know you've made it very clear you're not a counselor, and you make it clear to clients, and it was clear to me." He said, "I don't understand though how everybody seems to come out of coaching and they tell me they're feeling happier, they're feeling lighter, they're feeling, they might have been feeling down and they feel more energized, they feel less anxious." He said, "So if it's not counseling, what are you doing?" And I shared, it was a great question. I said, "Here's the thing. I'm aware as a coach, and I must be, if it's a counseling issue, to refer. However, by virtue of the fact that we help people get really clear about what they really, really want, where they are, where they want to be, and we help them clear the way, find out what the obstacle is in the way. And once they get that clarity and focus, they become energized. Yeah. And, some of the challenges lift in terms of feelings, anxiousness or sadness or whatever. And so that's the way I positioned it in relation to coaching, helping people on a feeling level as a coach.
Thank you so much, Carolyn, because it's a good, as a responsibility of as a coaches to tell the client clearly and set that expectations. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So if I ask, the next question is about like when you entered into your first coaching session, maybe with different needs, goals. So just would like to know, look, how those sessions has unfolded for you, every one of you. So if Elham, you can share first. You're on mute. If you can unmute, please. Yeah.
Sure. So how the session unfolded, it was actually fascinating. Although I only realized it when I actually arrived to Uganda and I started to work in that location, and I started to implement the plan that I did with my coach. So I realized that how powerful were those sessions and how they significantly made a difference and changed my experience of going to this new environment to a very pleasant experience compared to the previous one, to the previous countries that I went. So basically he asked me several questions and I had some assignments to do in between the two sessions, and then in the second session I came with the plan that he told me and we somehow polished it together. And then I was not at that moment aware that how this is gonna work when I arrived. But when I arrived, I went with my little notes and I started to go and do them one by one. And it turned out, as I said, fascinating. One of the things that I was supposed to do, and this was not about performance of the team, it was not about my performance, it was about coping mechanism to arrive when I arrived. But the solution will amaze you because it looks like it was about the performance, but it was not. So one of the first things that I was supposed to do in that plan that we draw together was to have a one-on-one session with my team members. So when I arrive, I see every single staff member, I introduce myself, I tell them what are my actually leadership style. And then I asked them about their goals, where they want to go next, how can I support them? And they were totally shocked, that they never had a manager who asked them, what is your next step? How can I help you? So they felt very much, first of all, that they find a manager that cares for them and they felt empowered. And that affected me because the whole atmosphere of the team changed and made that experience a very positive experience for me. So it was I still, when I think about it, it's a very pleasant feeling because it was not supposed to work for the performance of the team or delivering of our deliverables. It was about me coping in that environment, but through that both actually happened. So I coped in this new environment much better by making that very strong connection with my team. And this came out in the discussion that I had with my coach, because I was telling him what happened in the previous experiences, and all those tips came out, especially about sharing my leadership style with my staff. So in previous ones I didn't, and so I have my specific way of leadership, and the team were having a lot of guesswork at the beginning when I arrived, instead of me going telling them this is the way I work, this is I expect from my team, so how do you see it, how we can work together. And that made the whole experience much easier for me in that assignment.
And sometimes I love, like, when it has happened, first time with such a great experience you have from the coaching. Sometimes, like, have you at that point of time, you reflected back, what was it earlier when you have not taken the coaching session? And now when you've taken the coaching session, the kind of a difference was there. Have you done
Of
any, like,
course.
yeah.
Yeah, of course. It was this very early connection that I made. I mean, in general, I get along with people, but obviously when I arrive, it take longer time to make that connection. But with those initial meetings, one-on-one, in the very first 1 or 2 weeks that I arrived, the connection already established much faster. And that obviously that was the biggest difference. And the other one, as I said, it was that I shared in advance the way I work. and they didn't get any surprise. I say, okay, she already told us she's like this.
Yeah, thank you, Elham. So, if Francisco, you could share how for you that session unfold for you.
Well, again, why? As I said as I said during my sharing, I'm a person we don't have much. Like what Karen said, we are here to support our clients to have clarity in those obstacles. I personally, as I said, I'm very much an ongoing guy. I'm very much very active in that sense. But this is one thing I recognize now after my 6 years of being a coach, or 5 years, right? If I would have had a coach back in my corporate life, I'm 100% sure I could have done it much better. And I've done it good, well, in a good all experience I had, and all colleagues, all companies or any corporate I did, it was amazing. But 100%, now that I've been being a coach as well as a coachee, my experience in that sense is that if I would have had a chance to have someone who is helping me to see those obstacles that for me it was not obstacles, could have perhaps driven in a direction which would have been much better in my decision making at that time, right? And that's where I think my unfolded, and that's why when every time I'm being the coachee as well, I'm quite open. Before I was quite more of see what's happening, but it's more now. It's just, hey, this is a coaching session. For me, it's an open space that coach invites us, and it flows like that. A lot of reflection, a lot of sharing, a lot of thoughts, a lot of emotions, and that is being captured by the coach, and that goes back to me as a coachee, as a client, and that gives me a lot of way of thinking. And so obstacles are still there, but those obstacles are being seen by myself during those coaching sessions as a tool for me to take time to react, to reflect, to think, and slow a bit more, as I may say, to see what could be the next step. That's the way I see it when I'm being part of a coach. By the way, all coaches need as a coach as well. And as Sarah said, until now I have 3 or 4 coaches out there, and once in a while we have this coaching session. I enjoy that.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. Yes, we all coaches also need a coach. And sometimes, like during our coaching sessions, we realize it, okay, fine, maybe, like very good point you have said. And a lot of, our clients must also have come back and said to us, I wish, I could have the coach maybe earlier in my corporate life or in my work life, so that I could have maybe gone from this level to that level, next level. Yeah. So, Kellen, if you would like to share about your session unfold.
I would say in the big picture, when I go back to starting a coaching journey with Sarah, after Royal Roads and in the midst of the grief and whatnot, and I shared it was keep my business going, the focus, the energy. And here I am, like that was 15 years ago. And here I am, 22 years in business, and my business grew from a local company to provincial in Canada, then national and some international clients. So, I honestly, coaching has been a significant part of that. Yeah, in terms of how how the how my business has been optimized. That's a huge takeaway in relation to how coaching has unfolded. Yeah.
If Karen, I can ask you only the next question is like, what really surprised you the most about your coaching experience?
What surprised me the most, I think, what surfaced for me as you asked that is I knew that I would benefit from it. I knew that just from my training, from seeing the gift I was giving to others, that I would be in receipt of that gift. I don't know that I really thought of the power that the gift the coach would bring to me in terms of being a role model of a coach. So my coach training, you know, I had the framework and what to do, and then session to session with my coach, you know, and how she shows up without even trying. She's my teacher too, in terms of as being a role model of a coach, you know, holding neutrality, creating a really safe space and environment to share with depth and vulnerability, her showing vulnerability. And I that was off my radar in terms of positives from coaching.
Thank you. So, Francisco, if you would like to share about like the most surprising thing about your coaching experience.
Yeah, as I said, I'm a Gallup strength finder coach, you know, and one of my strength is connectivity and relator. That's number 2, number 3, right? And very strong in command, number 5, right? So it's a very contrast way. You know? So I connect with people normally. I do engage that, but the thing that I calls my attention is how, and it's something that a coach is working on it constantly. How you're able to build that trust. The trust I'm stating is that you're talking with, let's say, a client who is a stranger, who is about to share as much what's happening in that person and who is that person, right? And that's the thing. When you're a coach, you are to be there as being and present, and how you're able to build the trust for that individual to start sharing as much, for him to have that kind of benefit of what is a coaching session, right? And that kind of trust, I'm still working on that, and I still believe it's a long journey for me, but I am sensing that trust is being built because they can also perceive, let's say, that me as a coach, I'm there for them. I'm partnering with them. I'm able to listen what's happening. I'm able to revert what's happening. I'm able to observe and so on. But they're feeling this kind of connection, right? And that trust for me is something that connection and trust is something that I am constantly working and having it there during that session, because I think for me it's very, very important that to build that kind of a bridge between the client and the coach. The client is the, how they say during my training, is the master of the story, right? But the coach is the master of the process. Coach, we will have our process. Correct. We know that the framework, as Carolyn said, but the story belongs to the client, and that we cannot change.
I think you've said very, very few beautiful lines, you know, about this coaching. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Elham, if you could please share about your.
What surprised me, I already mentioned, was that what was supposed to be an intervention for me, making my experience there a successful experience as coping with my new environment, turned out, in addition to that, turned out to be a very good solution, let's say, for the teamwork and for the performance of the team and the performance of our deliverables. So that was the first surprising thing. And the second thing I wanted to mention is that slipped from my mind. So yeah, so it helped because it worked both ways. It really reduced this psychological burden on me of being in that new environment. So I was 100% prepared for it.
Like, you know, before I ask the next question, for me, what was really surprising was that how come a question can help me to get my answers? How come a question can help me to do so much self-reflection about myself? Where were those answers about me from last so many years? I was not aware about them. How come now they have come up with the good questions? So those were really surprising things for me for my coaching. Yeah. So once, like, Carolyn, Elham, and Francisco have said that, coaches should also have a coach. Okay. So my next question is evolved around that also. Like, what is the importance of having a coach? So, Francisco, if you can tell first, yeah.
As I said, I mean, every coach needs a coach,
Yeah.
definitely, everyone. And there's an always saying that not everyone is coachable, right? That's true. But my point as a coach, and I think Caroline knows that, is that you need always someone to supervise you and to mentor you. I mean, doesn't mean that you spend time and hours talking and sharing, being with your client. That's mean that you're doing well. Someone has to be giving up a bit more of what's happening, right? And each coach, let's put it, at least this is the way I do it. No? Every time I have a session, I do spend 10 or 15 minutes of reflection back what happened during the session, right? That I do. Try to see what could have done, what happened, so on. But what happened if you have someone who could be able to supervise you, or a coach there, to as well give back, what that person has observed during that session. And that's what I said. Sometimes we as a coach, we need someone to hear us and to say what's happening and our concerns and so on. And in fact, I'm part of, once in a while, I join these consultation cases of digital coaching platforms that they are. And what we do there is, like, coaches bring cases of sessions. And each of the coaches there will give their, what they observe, what they hear about what my case is stating. And you can see that there are different angles, perspectives, opinions, options, right? So it's still there. But if you don't, I mean, the way I see it, if I just continue just coach by myself, it looks like it's going to be only one direction. But if I'm able to be observe and supervise, there are a lot of things that still have to be considered, me as being a coach as well. So that's why I see a coach needs a coach. That's for sure. Or supervisor or mentor.
We also have our own journey to, like, upgrade ourselves and doing something. Yeah.
Indeed. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Carolyn, please, would you like to share about this?
Well, it's important for us as coaches to do our inner work. How can we, stand in a centered, grounded way to help others if we have not done the work ourselves, you know? And so to me, that's a big part of it. And interestingly enough, Francisco, you mentioned you're doer, and it's like I thought, yes, I tend to be more of a type A personality. And so that pause for reflection, that time to have someone as a thinking partner, a sounding board, in itself can help cultivate mindfulness, a level of mindfulness, just by, stopping, pausing, and pondering whatever it is that happens to be swirling around from the external. And yes, at some level, maybe I can self-coach, only to a degree. I need that other objective co-creator, partner, if you will, to help me move forward and remove the obstacles that might be in the way that are off my radar. And so I agree, every coach needs a coach.
Yeah, that's a really good line. Yes, thank you. Elham, if you please could share.
Yeah, first of all, I will quote actually from the director of human resources in our organization once said this in a podcast that I was listening from her, and I loved it. It's very true. She says that we all need a coach. I mean, she was talking to the leaders, but it applies to us as coaches as well. That getting someone who is exclusively paid to guide us through our path is a gift that we can give to ourselves. And as she beautifully put it, it's so rewarding and let's say heartwarming if you know that someone's agenda is to make sure that you're a good coach. It's so, yeah, I would say it's so, it gives you a lot of peace of mind, no? That someone exclusively is there to make you a good coach, a better coach. And it's, of course, a part of the learning for us as coaches as well. Because for me, whenever I get coached or I had a mentor, for me it was learning. I also regularly attend supervision sessions, and it's a group supervision, very small group, like 4 or 5 people, and those are completely transformative. And I learn a lot of things from the coach who's coaching me. So I use also their knowledge and techniques in my coaching, in addition that I'm making sure that there's someone supervising and someone telling me if I'm doing a good job. I also learn from them. So it's an absolutely the way it should be.
Thank you, Elham. Okay, so now based on your all experience, if you had to offer a guidance to someone, like because somebody like decide, okay, fine, I want to go for a coaching, or maybe I don't want to go for a coaching. Okay, so sometimes people have those questions and doubts into their mind. So if you have to offer the guidance to someone who is going coaching for the first time, what would it be? So if I say, okay, Carolyn, if you can share first, yeah.
Two things surface, and
Yeah.
one is to be vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
to open up to the degree that you can, because by virtue of what coaching is, it is typically a very safe and supportive space. And the more vulnerable we are, the more transformative our experiences can be. The second thing, just actually, Elham, it just flows from what you just shared. And thank you for sharing that. And that's that gift. It's like I almost feel like I would ask a question saying, when's the last time that you were really listened to? When's the last time that you, your life, your agenda was the total agenda of a listener? Because that's what coaching is. And so that was inspired by what you just shared, Elham. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So Francisco, please, what guidance you would like to share? Yeah.
Guidance for me is like the chemistry call, as we said, no, when it's during, is like explain as much what is coaching, what is mentor, counseling, different. I think that's very important for me. They have to understand what is a coaching session. And I think Marcia Stewart, one of our books he wrote, he said very clearly, coaching works. It does. As being therapist, a counselor, a mentorship, and psychiatrist, it works, right? But the point here, as Karen was saying, is like you have to be clear on the client or the coachee has to be very clear, has to have very clear statement what is a coaching session is. And there's a lot of emotions that have to be stories to be shared. Being vulnerable is part of it, and your story, you're going to be heard. And sometimes what we hear goes back very much in a disruptive and very provoking way, right? And the client has to accept that sort of, right? So it's there, you have to be ready. But as I said, I'm not saying it, Marsha said, and I believe in it, coach works.
Yes. Thank you so much, Francisco, for sharing. Elham, what guidance you would like to share?
I would say they're all in the same line that Caroline and Francisco shared, but I would say that they need to adjust their expectation. I would say that coaching is a unique experience and transformative. So they need to be ready and willing for it. So they also need to be committed because there is a lot of mental energy that they need to invest during the session and between the sessions to act upon what they discovered during the session. And my last advice would be that they need to be patient because transformation will not happen over time. But when it happens, it will last forever. So you really need to be patient for the result of the coaching interventions and to see it over time.
And you know, Ella, when you were saying this line, it just clicked my memory. Like when I went for my first coaching journey, being as a coach, there were two things with me very clear: be coachable. I was coachable, and I was completely patient to get the results from my coach. I think maybe those two things really worked during my coaching journey. And I hope if somebody will go with that mindset, it will really help them also. Yeah. And with that, I want to ask the last question with our coaches. So you are an amazing real, not only just being as a coachy journey, you have amazing, but you also have an amazing coach also. And there are a lot of coaches who are going into this journey, who are starting as a coach. So if you would like to share some advice to the aspiring coaches based on your experiences, which can help them in the coming years, what would it be? So, Francisco, if you can share, please.
Well, for me, it's very clear. As a coach, if you aspire to be a professional coach, a good coach, the journey continues. It will never end. So, and accept that and be ready for that. But it's true. It will be an ongoing journey.
Thank you so much, Francisco. Kelly, would you like to give that advice?
I agree totally. That's exactly the sort of thing I was going to share. And that, there's no such thing as a perfect coaching session. There's not. And the moment, if I ever get to the point where I think it's a perfect coaching session, then I have to be concerned because there's always something, I'm a work in progress. And I think that mindset, that heart space to bring that to coaching is just part of the essence of who we are as coaches, to realize again, the journey continues. I'm a learner in process, right? And the client is the teacher and I'm the learner. And there's always something that maybe went supremely well and always something to change up. And that audit, that reflective practice after each session can be a key part of that, along with the mentor coaching supervision.
Thank you, Carolyn. Elham, please share.
The first thing actually previously Francisco mentioned, I would advise aspiring coaches to dedicate an ample time to explain their fellow coaches what coaching is and what it's not, and help their clients to adjust their expectations. Then the second thing I would say is that don't be afraid of not taking a client who is not ready for it. So I would say if you take a client that is not ready for it, the first person lose is you, because it will affect your confidence really. So it's good to assess and see if the person is really willing and ready for it. And that even at any point in the journey, if you feel like, try to share it with the person and see what's their feedback and take it from there. And don't be afraid of that.
I know with this, I'm not giving like any advice or guidance, something, but would like to share one experience. A few days back, I was having a conversation with someone, and I still have a coach from last 5 years. And that person asked me, "You are a coach. How come you can have a coach from last 5 years?" So I was like, "This is my journey. I would like to have somebody around me to help me with the development in my life." And I want to have around with a like-minded people and mindset, and just keep churning myself, because for me this is not a 1 year or 2 years. This is a journey for me, and if I enjoy this part of my life, so why not to have a coach around me? So yeah, yeah. Thank you. And yes, I would say I think it was a great session. Fantastic. I would say the experiences which you all have shared from your personal journey, and also the, I would say, the advice to the aspiring coaches. And yeah, I think this all has been an incredible session today with this fireside talk which we have. And I hope that these real life experiences which we have shared will inspire our listeners to take the crucial step towards their transformation through coaching. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. Thank you.
Thank you, Imani. Thank you for this. Okay, the few participants that we had, they all left. So I wanted to thank them as well to joining us.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.